I have a feeling I'm going to kick this. So I'm just going to put it right here. That way it doesn't get sent across the whole floor. Oh my gosh. The last 2 months have been a little crazy, and I haven't been going to the gym as much as I usually do, but I joined a gym, and I went back to do leg day, which is the worst day, so it's penance day, and I'm suffering, friends. This was Thursday. It feels like my legs are rubber bands that are cracking and they're about to just go. So if I just collapse, it's just my legs. That's all it is. But it's going well. We're getting there. Things are starting to get normal. And this weekend's readings are incredible. This weekend's readings so beautifully meld together, from the first reading to the second reading to the Psalms, those things we never pay attention of and daydream during Mass. And in the gospel, they all have this beautiful cohesiveness. And to kind of set it up, there might be a couple times in our life that we can look back on and think, boy, there was overdrive in the maturation, the growth, what the Lord was doing in this specific little session of my life. It might have been an illness. It might have been an important trip. It might have been, someone passing close in your life. And I can think of a couple of these times that, in just a 3-week period, the Lord did a lot in revealing to me, what kind of a priest, what kind of a man, what kind of a son of God he wanted me to be. So after my first year over in Rome, you don't go home. You can go do anything and participate in the universal church and just expend that experience. And I spent the first 3 weeks in Scotland working at a parish. It just so happened that the British Open was at St. Andrews. I didn't plan that at all when I set that up, but worked in a parish over there and did get to go to the British Open. But then I spent 3 weeks in India, in Calcutta, working with the Missionaries of Charity. We all know Mother Teresa and what she did in Calcutta. But there's still, to this day, a bunch of sisters that continue that work. That first home that she worked, Taligat, which is where they literally at the beginning were taking dying people off the streets and bringing them in to give them a chance to die in a respectable way, was the first home that Mother Teresa opened. And I worked there every morning. And then in the afternoon, I'd go to Dayadan, which is where, kids with such profound physical disabilities and deformities of different types of things that their families couldn't take care of them. So the sisters would take care of these kids with cerebral palsy and just give them the physical therapy and the education to help them get the most out of life. So that was every day. And, it was exhausting. You were giving yourself completely, and then you would go back, and there were these sisters who were at Mother House, and they would kind of just sort of be there. They would give you these nuggets that you weren't ready for, you were tired, and it would just bowl you over the head. I was there with 2 other seminarians, a seminarian from Springfield, now priest, and a priest from Davenport. And there was this one sister, Sister Ruth. She's one of the original crew. And I don't know if she's still alive or not. I hope she is. I'd love to get back to India at some point. But she would just sit by the front door, a very nice, very welcoming little old Indian nun from Calcutta who worked with Mother Teresa. And boy, she would cut straight to the quick. I remember one day we're tired, we're walking in, and she goes, so you're going to be a priest, huh? I was like, yeah, we're seminarians. We got 3 years, God willing, we'll be a priest. And she's like, you'll be a holy priest, okay? And it's like, oh, yeah, sister, we'll be a holy priest. Like, no, we have enough mediocre priests. If you're not going to be a holy priest, don't be a priest at all. And you're just like, oh my gosh, just getting truth bombed by Sister Ruth. And there's one day, we're walking in, and she's like, what's the most important thing? What's the most important thing? And now we're ready, we're like, if we don't answer this correctly, we're going to get, spiritually and intellectually lashed by this nun. And, I'm just like, I don't know. I've been a Catholic my whole life. What's the most important thing? And it's like, try to go to heaven, bring some people with you. And she's like, no, that's wrong. That's a terrible answer. And I can't even remember, I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, what do I say to Sister Ruth? She thinks I'm just this terrible person. And she said, just think of St. Peter, right, on the beach. to love God with your whole heart. Today is July 30th, 2023. The only thing that matters today is to love God with our whole heart, and tomorrow we're going to try to love him a little bit more. We have this wisdom that is given to Solomon. We have this psalm that talks about how we love commands, and we have this pearl of great price. If God came to me and said, I'll give you whatever you want, what would you ask for? I mean, it's kind of a dream. You got a genie situation, right? God comes to you and says, I will give you whatever you want. Maybe it's to win a lottery. Maybe it's to have a new lake house, a new boat. Maybe it's for the Bears to win a Super Bowl. I mean, God can't do everything, but what would you want? What would you ask for when you could have this moment that would be like ideal, and to have wisdom? To have wisdom. What is that wisdom? What does it mean to be wise? There's a lot of smart people out there. We're pretty stupid. And there's a lot of people who maybe seem unformed. Sister Ruth, she didn't have any advanced degrees, but she got it. She understood. She understood what life was all about. And that psalm, I love your commands. I loved the commands. I kind of live as a Christian despite the commands. I'm pretty sure I'd be a lot happier if I could break some of those commands on the regular. Let's be honest with ourselves. That's what we think. We don't love the commandments. That's where wisdom comes in. For someone who looks at the commands and says, this is how I am going to get the most out of life. Not by these limitations, but by a path for success. That if this is the avenue that I live in, I will get the most out of life. Everything turns out well for those that love God. Brothers and sisters, we're out here running a rat race every single day. We're reaching for things that we think are going to make us happy, and they never will. That's not wisdom. Wisdom is to see a whole different dimension. What is the pearl of great price? To love God with your whole heart. That means surrendering all of those lies that the world has given us that says this is what's going to make you happy. They're lies, and we believe them. So for us to grow in wisdom, we kind of got to cut to the quick. We have to attack the commandments, to put our whole life into it. We have to strive for holiness each and every day. We try to live out the virtues. We're not there, but if we try to love the Lord with our whole heart, by putting virtue ahead of everything else, and by utterly rejecting vice, we begin to have these baby steps in the spiritual life. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall down. We have deep wounds, brothers and sisters, where we think the lies of the world are actually what is going to bring us happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, and they never will. We got to be easy on ourselves. We can't have to have the memory of a goldfish, right? It's like my golf game. When I have a bad swing, I got to forget it. I know the game plan, just got to stick with it. But I'm going to make bad shots. I'm going to shank it off to the left. We're going to sin every day, but we get back up, we go to confession, and we allow ourselves to stick to the game plan. This is the beginning of wisdom. This is the beginning of discovering that pearl of great price. Lord, help me to understand that the 10 Commandments, loving my neighbor, getting out of my own head and seeing Christ before me and loving them, is what's going to make me happy. So as we receive the Eucharist this morning, let us sit with this. What lies are we holding on to? What do we actually think is going to bring us happiness, to bring us fulfillment? And to realize that if it's not God, we've got to kick it out. And to embrace the Lord. That slowly but surely we can say, Lord, I love your commands. Because we have found that pearl of great price, realizing that the only way for us to grow is to love God with our whole heart, and tomorrow to try to love him a little bit more. I believe in one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, born of the Father before all ages, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, consubstantial with the Father. Through him all things were made. For us men